This is going to be your guide to using Arboliva in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. So I've been wanting to check out this Pokemon for a while to see if Game Freak forgot about something. Is there a crazy strategy or interaction that slipped through the cracks and makes this Pokemon super crazy? So we're actually going to get into the weeds on this one, even though the Pokemon ends up being pretty straightforward as a bulky special attacker. So if you end up enjoying the video, or if it helps out in any way, don't forget to leave a like, share with your friends, and comment your thoughts down below. So looking at the stats, stat interactions, they're weird. 78 hit points on a bulky Pokemon doesn't feel good, but 90 defense, 109 special defense. It just has stats, and it just kind of shows the weird design philosophies we've seen for modern Pokemon. Gargantusal's allowed to exist, and Arboliva is kind of hindered in the stats and just doesn't feel that crazy, but at least can get bulky. Like, if you take any Pokemon, you max out its hit points, you max out its defense on the EVs, it's going to be pretty tanky. But with this, we have 125 on the special attack, so we're initially going to look at that. No speed means we don't have to worry about anything, and then we go modest nature, do as much damage as possible. And that's where the interactions start adding up. So we have Seed Sower. When hit by an attack, effect of grassy terrain begins. So we're the slowest thing, which means we are going to get hit by an attack, which means grassy terrain lands, and then we're getting bonus damage on the Giga Drain. That's something to consider. And since we don't have Dynamax creating all kind of crazy terrains nonstop, terrains are a bit more valuable and harder to find, but they're not strong enough to be worth just dedicating a turn into setting it. So yeah, now we're actually looking into bonus damage. We have Grass, we have 125 special attack, feeling pretty good, and then Dazzling Gleam Earth Power. So I've talked about this in previous guides to where, like, actually Ground Fairy comboing together is just good coverage and solid damage, and that leaves open some shenanigans on the moveset. Terra Blast is interesting because 80 base power special attack that's normal technically works with stab into our normal typing, because for some reason we're grass normal, but then you don't really see too many ways that it's going to work out. Like, okay, so let's say they have a dragon type Pokemon. Well, Giga Drain's resisted Dazzling Gleam Super, which means the stab Terra Blast doesn't really matter. So, like, I guess into other grass type Pokemon you at least have this, but then you can maybe get really weird with this, because depending on season 2, depending on like Paradox Pokemon, or if weather starts getting picked up, if weather ever becomes common, you can just like tech in the weather ball and then just get like 100 base power move. That also benefits into weather and gets that typing, maybe, or you can also just run Terra Blast into some kind of Terra type, and that's going to be really something to consider because you just have weaknesses. And I don't understand modern Pokemon design philosophy. All the designs physically look terrible, or at least pretty much all of them, especially for like Pokemon Legends and Generation 8, so that's been a weird path we've been down. And then just tack on normal typing. Why? Because Grass didn't have enough weaknesses. Sure, you get the Ghost immunity, but that doesn't really matter, and Annihilate and Houndstone end up being just like giga overrated and not that good, so it's not like, oh, but you need a normal type Pokemon to counter these OPs. They're just not a problem, so the Ghost doesn't really do too much for you, and then normal typing doesn't give you any resistances. So yeah, we're just more weak. That's kind of rough. So I mean, like, you Terra into water typing, that's kind of an idea. Can Terra into electric. Actually, Terra into electric with Seed Sower makes it to where most of the damage you're going to see from ground type moves on the Earthquake is halved, and then just weird interactions kind of ensue. Electric, I don't really think that does too much for your coverage. Your coverage in general is going to look like this: Grass, Ground, Fairy. Get resisted. Unfortunately, Corviknight is a Pokemon, it gets kind of common, and if it body presses your normal typing, you're in trouble, so maybe that's something to consider on the Terra typing. Also, like, you can Leech Seed it, but it's just going to set up and roost forever, so that's going to be like the biggest problem. Charizard gets usable. Well, you're a grass type Pokemon, so you don't want to be going up against that anyways. And then, like, yeah, you might want that electric to kind of round out your coverage, and that would be like the craziest thing ever to do. That there's just a Corviknight or Charizard chilling, and then you go, Terra Electric, hit you super effective with my 125 special attack. Okay, now it chunks. And one thing we've learned recently through battles, so check out that playlist and check out those battles, is that Glamora is strong. Like, very strong. So we can run this effectively the same, like 125 special attack if you're going choice specs, super effective stab damage, and then increasing your coverage with Terra types, or like finding some kind of weird stuff, just actually slaps almost everything. So this isn't going to be as strong with like the lower base power and Giga Drain and slightly less damage. But I mean, you can just like run this, and then what's going to happen is you're the slowest thing. So they hit you, Seed Sower sets. Now you're getting 30% damage on the Giga Drain. And you're also going to be healing the damage that you just took, and then the Choice Specs is going to be giving you crazy damage on top of crazy damage. And that also means, like, Terra Grass is maybe an option. You just go all into that, and then you just destroy anything that's out there. So let's see what all that looks like against a pretty strong special attacker. So we have something that has 135 special defense, 55 hit points, pretty low, but also 135 special attack with Fluttermane kind of doing shenanigans. And the damage numbers are looking pretty good for us. That even right here, Fluttermane goes for the +1, it's not going to have immediate one-shots on us, so we have good trading potential. And then we just build up all those numbers we were talking about. So Modest Nature, that's going to be more damage, that's going to be more healing. Same thing on the Choice Specs. So we add that in, damage is going to be looking pretty crazy. And then we get the Grassy Terrain. Wow. Really? We're doing that to one of the fatter special defense tank Pokemon in the game while being pretty much a 3-hit KO. Definitely a 3-hit KO after the Grassy Terrain recovery. So pretty much no matter how this matchup goes, Arboliva wins. So let's do some other weird stuff. Let's say turn 1, Fluttermane's going to go for that Calm Mind, so now it's going to gain that special attack, gain that special defense, but that means it's also not going to proc the Grassy Terrain. So I mean, we're still going to be doing 45% to it, which means if we find a 55% hit on that next turn, we're gonna be fine. And if Fluttermane goes for the +1 Moonblast, that's not enough to KO. +2 Moonblast, not going to be enough to KO. So that's just how the numbers end up breaking down. And then once Fluttermane goes for the attack, it's going to do roughly 70%, but then it procs Grassy Terrain, and then that puts Fluttermane into the KO range. So that means Arboliva is going to go down to 30%, but then heal about 20%, and then get some healing back from the Grassy Terrain, and now it's just chilling at 57%. So another Pokemon that just raw comes in and doesn't have enough damage, you get another shot at the Giga Drain craziness. It's not looking too bad. And this is going to be a kind of less ideal matchup because of the special defense tanking that Fluttermane wants to do. So you just catch your opponent off guard by going Specs 125 special attack, and then they are going to be feeling pretty bad. Maybe I was also thinking Life Orb here, because one problem with the Glimmora is that if you're locked in and the opponent has like some kind of weird team set up to where like now your Earth power is going to get immune by a Levitate or a flying Pokemon, Rotom's pretty common, so that's going to be more like Glimmora specific since that's Terra Ground on the moveset I recommended. But yeah, if like you're just locked into Giga Drain and they bring in a Steel type Pokemon or something that resists you, it's kind of forcing you out, that kind of makes things ugly. But with the Life Orb, you don't really care if you're going to hit something for 80%, get 40% of your health back, have the Seed Sower kind of kick in, maybe certain Pokemon it's just going to be a one-hit KO, and then take a little bit of Life Orb burn while being hit point invested. So you can actually keep sustaining and surviving those hits, and like even Seed Sower is going to offset some of that Life Orb. So you can get away with this to keep your coverage up, and it just kind of depends on the meta. Like maybe you run Choice Specs and it doesn't work, you go to Life Orb, maybe it works, vice versa. Gotta experiment a bit. This isn't like just an outrageously outright powerful Pokemon like Garganasalt. It's not free. But if you experiment a bit, take a few losses, eventually you can kind of perfect around this Pokemon, and that's kind of what I was looking at for teammates. So Glimmora is going to be an Amoonguss and Toxapex or a Alomomola, but Arboliva is going to be a little different, and I was like, hey, what if you go Slowbro? So you're weak to Bug, but no one runs Bug. Dark is kind of whatever. Flying is unfortunate, still have the poisons. Like, you're not covering for everything, but you have a Pokemon with naturally higher special defense, getting tanked into a Regenerator physical Pokemon. You can just kind of find some setup here, and that's going to be pretty nice. So this is what I meant when... I said the Pokemon's pretty simple and straightforward, but has like some technical breakdowns. However, like the whole Glimmora idea has been really cool, and I still love that it's kind of calling back to the Dynamax Vaporeon that bodied us so hard. We just had to adopt it. Also in previous videos I said it's like max hit points, max special attack. No. What made it even crazier is that it was max defense, max special attack. Like the wildest, most impossible idea that's actually one of the most successful things possible in Generation 8. So if you're just kind of like playing around on those kinds of ideas, seems to be carrying over a little bit into Generation 9. Now, because the meta is so slow and ugly and bulky, you just unga bunga. And now you bulk damage, and that has somehow swung into favor after being bad for several generations. So what's left on this? Well, we have the Harvest ability, which means we need to compare it to other Harvest Pokemon. So Trevenant, not in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, at least with launch. Maybe National Dex or DLC or something changes that. But Trevenant's stats, really low. Like, lower offensive stat, lower defensive stats. It's really just kind of, hey, Harvest felt really scary to make too strong in Generation 6 on the Trevenant. So we just kind of have to hang back and see what it does. You know, it's going to get a Citrus Berry, it's going to Horn Leech, and then it's just going to kind of sustain forever. Arboliva just does that better on better stats. So maybe there's something here. And that also kind of shows something crazy, that if you're not going for straight up one-hit KOs non-stop with like choice specs and like full investment, you're actually not really losing too much. So Giga Drain in this case is going to do like 49% minimum, but then if we have no investment, 40%. Huh, we're really only losing 25% damage. That kind of sounds like a lot, but base 125 special attack means that Giga Drain still hurts, and it still heals you against a lot of Pokemon. So that's going to be really nice for the Harvest. And it also gets Strength Sap, one of the best moves in the entire game. Now we're talking. So max out your hit points, some defense, like you want to survive that first like overwhelming physical hit, maybe a +1 in some situations, but you also want to have more special defense at the end of the day because you can't boost it. So yeah, physical Pokemon comes in, you Strength Sap them, and then you Leech Seed, and then you Strength Sap, and then you win. Protect is here just because like protect for your Harvest, like, oh, I didn't get my berry back, I protect, hey, I got my berry back, I'm also Leech Seeding while that's happened. So this is just like your path back to full hit points. Also, it's just kind of nice to absorb opponents' moves. Like, if they're going for one-hit KOs and you protect 2 of them, that increases your odds of not getting one-shot pretty substantially. And then Terra Blast is here, kind of for, like, this water idea I pitched earlier, where, yeah, you go Terra Water. Now, this Pokemon that had incredible amounts of frailty through its typing, that just goes away, and only being weak to Electric and Grass while doing all of this, not the worst thing. And you don't have to just default the Terra Water, because you can make a Pokemon like Rotom Wash very uncomfortable. You Leech Seed it, you tag it with a little bit of Terra Blast, it can't really do too much damage to you. You can also like Strength Sap some kind of switch prediction into their physical setup Pokemon. Now they're just feeling awful, and you're just kind of sustaining forever. So like, this Pokemon has that opportunity to just be unkillable into a lot of things and just be super annoying but slowly progress into some kind of win condition. Really, the biggest problem is going to be something like an Amoonguss, because then you get to grass versus grass matchups. You can't Leech Seed the Amoonguss, Amoonguss can't Spore you, the game starts feeling very ugly and very stally. At least you can like Citrus Berry against it, so it doesn't really have too much damage threat against you, even if it's like throwing super effective Clear Smogs. That doesn't really matter. Terra Fire as an option feels weird because you're going into an awkward typing just to like anti the grass type Pokemon. That's just kind of the weird thing about bringing grass type tank Pokemon or grass type sustain Pokemon, because they're so countered by their own typing and other weird things start coming into play. But it's going to hurt if you go Terra Blast, Fire, now that has Stab, now that's hitting super effective on base 125 special attack. You're going to scare out whatever came in to deal with you. Also, Terra Fire has that benefit of coming in and hitting the Corviknight super, so you probably could want that as well. Golden Go gets super effective. So now the game is just like super duper weird. I mean, I have Terra Fire on my Amoonguss and my Blissey, and it's worked on both of them. So maybe that's the secret here, that like Terra Fire, like the fire typing is going to have some weaknesses and vulnerability that are uncomfortable, but it's not as game ending as Grass Normal, and you just kind of deal with it while having this, and it also kind of makes it more predictable for some kind of Pokemon to tank core with, and you might be alright. So let's go and actually look at what this Arboliva does. Dragapult, Dragon Darts, has all kinds of weirdness. I just want to throw out the Life Orb damage, see what that looks like, and it doesn't really change with a Choice Band as well. And that's just off of the natural bulk of having 252 on the hit points, so we can go and play around with some things like Dazzling Gleam, 252, Modest Nature, and if we had specs, we're just going to be one-shotting the Dragapult, so that's something to consider. But if we're running the bulk set, we're also not going to be too bad off, so we can go for Calm Nature here. We can look at the 156 defense EVs. So let's go and plug those in. And now the matchup kind of falls apart for any physical Pokemon because, okay, we go Strength Sap. Now we're back to full, Dragon Darts is doing less. We can also maybe Strength Sap again and just kind of make sure the physical Pokemon has nothing to do into us. At some point, a Leech Seed is going to land. Into the Citrus Berry procking, into Protect means, yeah, physical Pokemon, they have a pretty hard time. And then looking into like raw power, destructive physical attackers, it's still pretty crazy because like Strength Sap is just that good. And like I said in the beginning of the video, if you full invest into a stat, you're going to get pretty tanky regardless. So max hit points, some defense investment means that a Life Orb, Outrage, Adamant, Haxorus doesn't one-shot us. And then we can just kind of make it however minus it needs to be comfortable. Leech Seed, Citrus Berry, GG easy, Protect if we just ever need to get any kind of health back, and then try to just go for the next Leech Seed or Strength Sap switch in prediction, and you can kind of destroy a lot with this. It's pretty crazy. And then it also kind of shows that like Terra Fire does cover for your weaknesses pretty well while opening up the coverage in like weird niche situations. And this Pokemon kind of works no matter how you want to run it. If you want to go for just like a crazy drain, sustain-y harvest tank to build around with your team, it's not bad at that because the stats actually back it up compared to Pokemon we've seen in the past. Or if you want to run it like a Glamora, which does insane amounts of damage, just kind of go bulky attacker, but then you can kind of combo with other things. Oh, that's also pretty strong too. So go out and have fun with this Pokemon. It actually seems really good. Another thing to consider is that if/when Key and Moringa Berry become available, that plus Harvest into all of this, it's kind of the same idea where it's like, okay, we take a physical hit. Well, now it's just taking way less damage. Actually, Moringa Berry kind of the play here because of Strength Sap. So now you just become immortal. And then we're kind of running it like that Immortal Keyberry Trevenant Fan Fridays from back in the day, but on better stats, better damage, and better sustain. Kind of crazy. So guys, yeah, it's like if Trevenant got Strength Sap. Oh, that's actually really scary. I should have led the video with that, huh? Oh well. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.